Okay, what's up YouTube? Today we're doing a full review, my very first full review, so should be kind of a learning curve, I'm sure. It's going to be interesting to kind of see just how everything goes, because there's honestly a lot of information, and I want to make this super clear, and I want it to be easy to kind of understand and just kind of get a better grasp of the shoe that I'm reviewing, which I am reviewing the Newton CF1 Carbon Racer, obviously from Newton. And with just a kind of a full disclosure, this is a shoe that I did not purchase with my own money. This is a shoe that they sent me to review and kind of give my thoughts on. And I do some product testing type stuff with Newton, and so I've been very gracious to them about just being able to be a part of their journey and some of the new stuff that they're trying, because obviously this is very, very different compared to a traditional Newton type shoe. I've ran with Newton since I was actually my junior year of high school is the very first time I got a pair of Newtons. So that would have been 2010, 2011, 2012, some kind of in that nugget, because I think I actually got a shoe on sale, so it probably was a 2010 version of the Newton Sir Isaac. But I love that shoe, still love that shoe. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the review, and I'm just going to try and go through this. I made some notes. I kind of made a scoring type system too at the very end that we can kind of look at and kind of see how I'll be using the shoe and all that kind of stuff. So let's just start off at the very, very beginning. So we'll start from kind of the top of the shoe down to the bottom. I'm going to start with the laces, and hopefully I did a good job giving you guys a video of that. But this is a multi-positional lacing system that's in here with the sawtooth laces. As you can kind of tell, they have kind of like little bubbles, just to kind of make everything stay in place once you have it set. But I found this to be pretty effective. There was nothing too crazy. I did end up having to go with a runner's lace lock there, or a runner's loop, or however you want to call it. But I typically do that with my racing shoes anyways, or with a faster shoe, or just a shoe that just doesn't quite fit around my foot that well. But I found this to fit pretty well. The tongue, honestly, it's a pretty normal tongue. There is a little tiny gusset in there, but it's pretty much like a floating tongue with just a little extra support. And so a gusseted tongue, just for the people that don't know what that is, it's basically there's an attachment from the tongue to the inside of the shoe, and so that just kind of keeps it from not sliding as much. But yeah, I didn't have any issue with it sliding around. It's not particularly super plush tongue, but it's not too flimsy either. I feel like it was a pretty standard tongue. And then as far as the upper, it has a diamond mesh, as you can probably tell. It literally has little diamonds in it. This was pretty standard for me too. It's right now in San Angelo, it's really, really hot, and so I think every shoe just kind of feels hot, to be honest. But I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty standard. Nothing to write home about, but not bad at all. And so that was nice. And then the insole. They're calling it the Highlight Performance insole. I had no complaints. It felt just like a good standard insole. Nothing too fancy. Again, pretty standard. Get the job done. I think the real action of this shoe though comes from the midsole, and this is pretty new for Newton as far as what they're doing with this. This is what they're calling their Newtonium Peepa foam. So if you're not familiar with Pebax foam or a Peepa type foam, this is kind of taking over a lot of our super shoes. Most super shoes have some type of Pebax foam, or even like a TPEE type supercritical, just a high premium level type cushion. But this is, they're calling this the Newtonium Pebax foam. And then, so it's kind of like two pieces. So you have this top layer and the bottom layer, and it's both going to be that same kind of Peepa. I will say, I think I'm not seeing this from the specs or anything like that, but from a feeling standpoint, I feel like it's a little softer under the foot, and I feel like the people on the bottom is a little bit firmer. But that's also kind of wedged around what they're calling their XPS-C forked carbon plate. So it is have a little bit of a fork in it, and just to kind of add a little bit more stability and a little bit more fluctuation between people's strides. And so so it's kind of like a carbon plated sandwich, if you will. And I feel like it's really nice underfoot. There's also what they call a 4-foot arc 2, and that's kind of in here too. As you can kind of tell, this little green part here, just kind of where the action reaction technology is, which is actually a really standard thing. Newton's been doing that since the beginning, which definitely felt very, very tame compared to their typical daily trainer, just because you have all that cushion underfoot. And they did a really good job of kind of tuning the action reaction technology with the lugs. I feel like they really tuned that well. And now I did do a durometer test on this. I got kind of different readings from all over, but overall I got a pretty consistent 31 to 32 number or score for the durometer. So you guys that know how the durometer type thing works, kind of the lower the number, the softer, or the higher the number, the firmer. So it was pretty low. That's really good. I feel like that's not too soft, but it's soft enough to where you get a lot of forgiveness underfoot. So I feel like that was really, really well done. And as far as the specs go, let's rewind a little bit. As far as the feeling of the midsole, the midsole was bouncy. It was very forgiving. I can't even say how forgiving this shoe was, because in terms of racing shoes and just kind of performance trainers, this was just a very, very pleasant ride underfoot. And I think that the magic of the midsole is how stable it was. I know it's not a stability shoe, and typically you probably would never see a stability shoe as a racer. It's just not really something that's done very often. But for you guys that really need a lot more support underfoot, maybe you're supinating or maybe you're overpronating, this shoe honestly does really well. I mean, it's just a really stable shoe, and of course the carbon plate helps with that. But sometimes the foam compared and combined, I guess, with the carbon plate often makes a lot of the racing shoes kind of unstable at different paces. And I didn't have that issue. I could run 8 minutes flat in this. I could run 5 minutes flat in this, and even faster than that. And it felt like I was still running in the same shoe. I was still getting the same feel. I didn't feel like it was less or more stable at any paces. It was pretty consistent throughout the entire run. Now, this is kind of where the little bit of the iffiness comes from. I will say, I think for the purpose of it, or the purpose for me, it doesn't matter as much, but I think this will kind of be a deciding factor for some of you guys out there that are looking for strictly a racing shoe. So I weighed it multiple times with my little shoe scale, and I kept getting 9.24 ounces, and my men's size 9.5. Now, if you go online, they say this shoe is 8.5 ounces, so I don't know if... Because typically a sample is a size 9, so the sample size could have been a size 8, and that would make a lot more sense as 8.5. But anyways, I thought that was a little heavy. I mean, well, considerably heavy compared to the other people that are doing kind of carbon-plated shoes. But to me, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because we'll get to how I'm going to use a shoe and kind of the purpose of it for me. I'm sorry if I keep rambling, it's just because there's just a lot to unpack here, and I just want to make sure everyone understands and gets a really thorough review of this shoe. And then as far as the stack height from heel to toe, we are looking at a 4 millimeter drop from heel to toe. We're getting 34 millimeters of cushion in the heel and 30 underneath the forefoot. I will be super honest with this. This feels more than that. it feels closer to an Alpha Fly, and and I have the version 1 of the Alpha Fly, the Nike Alpha Fly, and it's right under that 40, and it's about 36ish, 35 and a half ish, in the forefoot. And so that's kind of closer. It may not quite feel like that much, but to me it feels closer to like 37, 33, something like that. So just more underfoot, and a lot of it's because of the lugs as well. And then in terms of the outsole, this is a high abrasion performance outsole, and guys, this thing will last forever. Now I know I only have 26 miles in the shoe, but there's not a single bit of wear at all. I mean, there's no wear. There's no creasing. I mean, this thing is like built like a tank. As far as quality, this is a extremely well made, well put together shoe. So it's the build quality is probably higher than any carbon plated or racing type shoe I've ever wore, and so I think that's why my overall review ends up being the way it is. So first off, let me go through my scoring system for the quality of a shoe. So we have 12 different factors that I'm going to look at, and I'm going to be rating those things from a scale of 1 to 10. And just so we know, for me personally, these are the 4 ranges that shoes usually fall into. If I get a total scoring of below 7.0, then it's not considered a runnable shoe for me. I won't run in it because I really do value my health and everything else. And so a runnable category for me, just like, oh, that shoe's like runnable, would be 7.0 to 7.4. Okay. And so then the next category would be good. Like, okay, that's a good shoe. I would say that's like a standard, good, solid shoe. Would be 7.5 to 7.8. So that shoe is good, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good shoe, but the next category is where things kind of change. So the next category is a shoe that's rotationable, and it's something I would buy again. So it actually makes my rotation, and it's good enough to make that rotation, and it's something that I would probably buy again. And that's from 7.9 to 8.4. Now, any shoe that's over that, at 8.5 or higher, that's going to be in a favorites category. A shoe that I could run in every day. It's just something I don't want to take off my foot. It's very, very rare for a shoe to ever be in that category for me. I think I've probably only had maybe 1 or 2 shoes throughout my entire career that would be even in that category. If that, it's so hard to find something that that's in that category. We have so many good shoes and so many solid shoes, but a shoe that you don't want to take off is hard. Okay, so I'm going to go through this. I'm going to go through all 12 categories, and then we'll kind of talk about everything else at the end of this. Okay, so the first thing is lacing system and the actual laces. And I gave that a 7.5 because it's pretty average. It gets the job done, nothing fancy. Didn't absolutely love it, didn't absolutely hate it, just a good solid score, 7.5. The tongue, I gave it a 7.5, just a solid tongue. The upper, I also gave it a 7.5. Again, just a good standard, get the job done. The midsole, I gave it an 8.5 because I think, again, it kind of has the forgiveness you want underfoot. It felt great. It was springy. Again, it was just it's a high score for midsole for sure. The outsole, I gave it a 9 because, I mean, this outsole is incredible. Like I said, I think it's going to go a long time, probably longer than anything else on the shoe. The outsole's very, very durable. For the drop of the shoe, I gave it an 8, which is, again, a pretty high score. I like a 4mm drop. In a racing shoe, I like that. It's fine because of the purpose I'm going to use this shoe for, so we'll get to that here in a second. The weight, I gave it a 6.5, which is the lowest score on here as far as everything else. A 6.5, that's not a very good score. Unfortunately, this is pretty heavy for the purpose that they want it to be. But again, it kind of just depends on what your intentions are with the shoe and what your purpose is for the shoe. So, but yeah, I gave it a 6.5. In terms of durability, I gave it a 9. Again, a really, really high score because I really think this shoe is going to go a lot of miles. In terms of miles, um, I don't know if this is crazy to say, but I think this shoe could go 500 miles. I know it's a performance trainer. I really feel like this shoe honestly could go 500 miles. Um, I mean that's my intake on that. I think 500 miles is doable in this shoe. As far as the looks, I gave it an 8.5. I love the look. I love the color. I love the style of it. I love the classic kind of Newton colors. So to me, I love it. 8.5. Versatility, I gave it an 8, which again is a high score. Which again that will play into the purpose of the shoe for me. So yeah, again. And then the price, I gave it a 7.5, which it's $230, and I know that's a high price, but for how versatile this shoe is, and compared to other shoes in the market that are kind of similar to it, I think that's a pretty good price. So I mean, it's fair. It's not great, but it's fair. It's a good price. Okay, so if you were to add all those things up and average it out, the total score would be 7.92. So if you kind of remember back to my scoring system, that would fall into the rotationable shoe slash buy again shoe. So, and I think a lot of it made that high of a category because of the way I'm going to use it in the future. So, my purpose for this shoe moving forward is to kind of use it for a lot of multi-purpose stuff. So, if I have a moderate run, I'm doing a good chunk of mileage, this is a shoe I'd probably slap on. If I'm doing like a 10-mile progressive run, this is something I would definitely like trust to put on. If I'm doing any kind of tempo or threshold work, I think this is a pretty safe shoe to use because I think it's going to really save your legs. You can do a lot of volume in this shoe and get away with it for sure. And then honestly, this is not a shoe I would race in personally. I have a lot of shoes. I have a lot of carbon plated racing shoes right now, and so this shoe just doesn't quite fit the bill for a racing shoe for me, except for the marathon. If I were to jump out of the door right now and do a marathon, this probably would be the shoe of choice for me, because it imitates a very quality training shoe, like a daily trainer, but with a little bit of extra pop and the really amazing foam. And so for me, that's the only race I think I would personally run in it. But I think this would work for a lot of people. I would think this would work for most people, honestly, that are just trying to save their legs and get a lot out of a shoe. This is a great option for you. I would even use it for like a faster long run, especially like if I'm training for a marathon or something like that. Definitely a quality shoe for that. And then who's the shoe best for? And again, I know I kind of just covered that, but I think this is a shoe that's good for someone that just wants to do a do-it-all shoe. Maybe you're chasing that 4-hour marathon barrier and you want to do the training in the shoe and you want to just get comfortable with running in a shoe like this. This would be a good shoe for you. Again, because you can probably get up to 500 miles in the shoe. So it's just, yeah, again, it's going to go the mileage. Who's a shoe not best for? So for those people that are trying to run their very, very fastest 5K, 10K, maybe even half, this wouldn't be my first choice for you. Not that it can't do that, but for you guys that are trying to run, sub 75 and the half, or you're trying to run sub 35, sub 34 in a 10K, or sub 17, sub 16 in a 5K. This is not the shoe I would throw in your foot first. Not that it couldn't do that, but it wouldn't be my first choice for that. And then also just another like little extra bit here too. Like what would this be compared to? What other shoes would you compare this to? And so I kind of have a random list. I think there's aspects of it that remind me of the Nike Alphafly version 1, because again the drop is exactly the same. And for me, the Alpha Fly would be a great marathon shoe. For me personally, that's my take on it. So I think they're very similar in that regard. There's even that same kind of almost spring-like under the forefoot type filling. So that kind of reminds me of the Alpha Fly quite a bit. The Alpha Fly is lighter, but it's not as stable as this. So it's kind of like pick your poison. Another shoe that I think it's pretty close to, and this is kind of a random. I think some people will be like, really? Is the Saucony Elite, Endorphin Elite. The reason why I say it's pretty similar is I feel like as far as the durometer, the cushion underfoot, the actual filling of the Pebax foam in this, it feels pretty close to the HP or HG foam, from Saucony. It feels pretty similar. I think the big difference would probably be the HG foam is quite a bit lighter than this, but in terms of filling, it's pretty close, and it feels pretty premium too. Another shoe I would say that's close to this in terms of like ride, maybe more so the ride of the shoe would be the New Balance SE Trainer. Pretty much any version. It has kind of more of that kind of feeling where it feels kind of like a souped up daily trainer, which that shoe is a performance trainer too. But I will say this shoe would probably last longer, and it's a lot more stable. And it's actually quite a bit lighter than the SE Trainer. So really, this is like a better version of the SE Trainer, or really any performance trainer. This might be the best performance trainer carbon plated shoe on the market as far as what I've tried and what I've seen. I know that's not really how this shoe is particularly marketed, but that's the way I would kind of use it. But anyways, that's my full review. I hope I didn't miss anything. I feel like I talked forever. But anyways, if you guys do want to get this shoe, you guys can go to newtonrunning.com, obviously, because that's who made this shoe. If you guys have any questions, please leave comments. And any more specific questions about the shoe, please do. Anyways, y'all have a good day. Bye.